Once again, Good Friday evening last week, a video surfaced of a San Diego sheriff's deputy overdosing from what some think was fentanyl after coming into contact with it during a vehicle search. But that's not the only recent case. 2 Clovis officers were also rushed to the hospital after being exposed to the drug on Sunday. That got us wondering how dangerous fentanyl really is. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, fentanyl is a prescription drug, but is also made and used illegally. The Institute considers the drug a synthetic opioid that's more potent than morphine. Illegal fentanyl is being mixed with cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and other drugs, and is sold illegally as a powder, put in eyedroppers or blotter paper, nasal sprays, or made into pills. So what safety measures are in place to protect officers if they do come into contact with fentanyl or other dangerous drugs? 23 ABC's Brianna Willis has this in-depth look.
While both KCSO and BPD say meth is the #1 drug in Kern County, they say fentanyl is on the rise and that law enforcement continues to do everything they can to protect themselves.
Just a few, in the powder form, a few grains of salt worth can be actually lethal to a human in the form of a powder for fentanyl.
Chief of Emergency at Kern Medical, Rick McFeeder, says working in the emergency department, he's seen a lot of overdoses over the years. And while many drugs are to blame, one continues to be a growing concern.
But in the last few years, although heroin's always been a drug of abuse in our community, we're starting to see more and more fentanyl use and abuse.
Feeder says fentanyl is more dangerous because small amounts can be deadly.
Most certainly all of them are bad, but I think where fentanyl, what's unique about it is it's very, very potent.
The Kern County Sheriff's Office also agrees that the drug is starting to appear more throughout the county.
Our narcotics investigators all agree that meth seems to be the most prominent drug in Kern County, but fentanyl is definitely on the rise because we're seeing it mixed into everything.
Sergeant Pear from the Bakersfield Police Department also says meth is still the #1 drug in Kern County, but there's been an increase in fentanyl seizures.
We have seen an increase in seizures of fentanyl and fentanyl-related opioids. Specifically in 2020, we had 48 seizures. This year, so far, we've had 89 seizures.
And while officers and deputies may not know when they are going to encounter narcotics, they wear PPE to stay protected.
Deputies don't always know what drug that they're coming across, so they take all of those precautions whenever possible because they can look at a certain drug and identify it just by their eye and think that, oh, this is, meth, and not know that it might be laced with fentanyl, which is where it becomes extremely dangerous.
And Sergeant Pear says they do whatever they can to protect themselves and the community.
We take every precaution we can. Ultimately, you can only do so much, and that's why this line of work is inherently dangerous, is because you never know what you're going to encounter.
KCSO says all deputies have Narcan to protect themselves and the community while encountering narcotics, and BPD says officers have them on a case-by-case basis. It's also important to note that KCSO and BPD said that their offices have not encountered a law enforcement overdose. In Bakersfield, Brianna Willis, 23 ABC News, connecting you.
And in an effort to bring more awareness on the use of fentanyl, we are taking an in-depth look at the dangers of other opioids. According to the Department of Justice, opioids are drugs available by prescription but can also be made illegally. Fentanyl is included in this group, along with other drugs like oxycodone, hydrocodone, codeine, morphine, methadone, and many others. Opioid overdose effects can cause coma, death, respiratory arrest, and depression of the respiratory system. Synthetic opioids, including fentanyl, are now the most common drugs involved in drug overdose deaths here in the U.S. In 2017, 59.8% of opioid-related deaths involved fentanyl, compared to 14.3% in 2010.